Hi all, this is Skate, and this is the Tier 8 T49 American Light Tank. And it is probably the most fun you can have on tracks. It's just outstanding. Now, when I fancy a giggle, my usual go-to tank is the KV2. However, recently, I've been going to this, because it is just... it's just amazing fun. So here's a very, very short clip to sum up the life of a T49. Load your HE to deal with other T49s, and if you don't finish them in one shot, you can ram them for the remainder of their health. And then off you go on your next adventure. Now, you'll see one of my greens by here. One of my friendlies is asking for help. So, what I'm going to do is load my heat, and we're going to go straight into the bum of that T54 Mod 1, set him on fire, and keep going. He is now a one-shot and finished off by the IS. And then we'll use our mobility to land on top of an AMX, squish him, and then turn around. Now, we are not going to finish this IS by here, sadly. I was waiting till I had a perfect shot, which is there, but somebody else finished him. But that pretty much sums up a T49. It's HE, use your heat in the butt, and then use your mobility. The downside to this tank is situations like this. There's an enemy T49 in front of me, and that is the biggest danger to this tank, because ammo racks. So that's the basics. So let's have a quick look in the garage, how I've set mine up, and then I've got some really fun gameplay to show you. So here's how I have mine set up in terms of equipment. I am waiting for my V-stabs to unlock. Other than that, I'm flicking through the options at the moment. It's a light tank, so coated optics are bare essential. In terms of ammunition, I run 6 heat and 16 HE. HE is the premium, it's expensive, but it is well worth it. And then I run my standard provisions and my standard consumables. You'll notice I've skipped through this really quick. That's because I have some really fun games I want to show you. And the problem was deciding which ones. There's just so much fun you can have in this tank. So I've picked a selection of games which I think give a good example of this tank, or rather give a good example of the pros and cons. Now, for me, every single one of the pros outweigh any of the cons. The problem with this tank is a lot of people think it's OP, and it's a very dangerous tank. I'm gonna get abused for this in the comments, but I don't think it's OP. If you play it right, it's fantastic and it's terrifying. If you don't play it right, you're just going to get nailed. I mean, it's not a brawling tank. The whole point in this is drive-bys, get in, get out. And a lot of people know how to play it. And proof of that is how high the bar is on this tank. I mean, the first 3 games I'm going to show you here are all 1,400 base XP. And these aren't masteries. That's mastery in tier 10 level. So that just proves how high the bar is on this. I mean, the last game... I'm quite proud of the last one, if I'm honest, guys. The base XP on the last replay in this video is 2,000 base XP, with a combined 8,700 damage. And by combined, I mean my spotting and my damage done. But we'll talk about that replay when we get to it. I think the key to this tank is the mobility and learning what ammo to use at what point in time. I think that is the absolute key to this tank. Obviously, you have bad penetration values. You've got 85mm penetration on the HE, which is a premium ammo, so it isn't exactly a tank which you're going to make a lot of credits on. And on the standard heat, you have 152mm. And to maximize your damage output, I think it's, like I said, bare essential. You know exactly what to fire and when. And once you've done that, the ammo racks come flooding in. I think in this tank I've had an ammo rack in every single game nearly, and I'm not making that up. In fact, I'm in the process of making a montage for you, just because it's flat out hysterical. So, and I keep going off on a tangent. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be very coherent in this replay. But you'll see what I'm trying to do at the moment is I know there's someone capping in C, and it was the Steramil, and there's a Borsig on my right hand side. So I want to take the Steramil out, and there's the ammo rack I was telling you about. I still would have probably killed him anyway because of the damage roll, so I have a Borsig by here and then I can go help my friendlies down there. And what I'm trying to do at the moment is bait him into shooting, which is exactly what he's done. And then I'm going to use my HE, and we're going to ammo rack him as well. And if you haven't played the T49, and I'm assuming most people have, that's what it is like every single game. It's just outright hysterical. I mean, in this scenario, I could use the heat. You can obviously see the Dracula at the top there, wasn't too pleased, but the HE was guaranteed kill. It was more expensive to get the kill that way, however, I would have had to aim the HE and I might not have even got it, but it doesn't matter because we made 8,800 credits on that one. We did 4,000 damage and 1,410 base XP. Like I said, that's a lot of XP. And for a lot of tanks, that is mastery level, but the bar is hugely high on this. What I want to try and focus on trying to explain, though, is what ammo and when. Now, it's probably going to seem like I'm trying to teach people to suck lemons here, because we've got hit skins, it's glaringly obvious. However, knowing which armor, or which ammo, to use for which type of armor is very beneficial, and it makes a world of difference. And I imagine most people who watch my videos are people who have a vested interest in the game and as a result know exactly what they're doing anyway. However, it is fun still to share and make sure we all know what we're doing. So you'll see I always go to the HE first. And the reason I always go to the HE first is because it doesn't matter what I see, I'm going to be able to cause damage to it. It doesn't matter if, well, I've spotted everything anyway. But, I mean, for example, the side of an IS-3. I'm not penning that with the heat all day long. I'm just not going to pen it. So I'm going to have to use HE for that. However, you'll notice most of the time I don't fire at the side of heavy tanks. Russian heavy tanks especially. I will avoid it like the plague. What I will do is wait, take my time to go around the sides of a tank, and then launch my shell into it, like here. I'm waiting, then I'll fire my HE, and then I'll run away. It's not worth shooting the sides. I could hit the track, won't get a full penetrate damage. So for that reason, I think it's so important to wait, time your shots. Because if you shoot a HE into the side of, I don't know, an IS-6, you may do 300 damage. You wait, put a heat straight in the back of him, and you'll do huge damage. Your heat's useless on the side of an IS-3 as an example because of its spaced armor, but the general rule of thumb is if it's Russian, just go for the butt. Except a T-54, you can put HE into that all day long, and you'll see there's an example there. That's the side of a KV-4 turret, and I didn't penetrate it. If I drove up to his butt, I would have been able to penetrate him, and just put that shell straight in, no problem at all. And it's the same with this. I mean, certain angles you can put a full penetrating HE shot into the AMX 50, 120 and 100. It's French, they have no armor. The AMX M445, I can pretty much guarantee an ammo rack on the side of that every single time. What I do is aim just below the turret, and it's just ammo racks. 99% of the time. So French tanks, side or rear above the tracks with HE, you're going to have no problem at all. Russian tanks, the butt with heat, not HE, and you'll do full penetrating damage. And it's pretty much the same with the German heavy tanks. German heavy tanks, like a Tiger II, I'll put a heat in the side or in the rear. If you can get to the back rear area of the turret, you've got a good chance of ammo racking them. Enemy medium tanks, you'll see I use the heat if I have to shoot at the front, and HE for everything else. But I will always try and use the HE first, and I'll always try to go HE in the side above the track or in the butt. If someone is chasing me and I need to stop them, then I will aim HE at the tracks, because it gives me the opportunity to get away by obviously tracking them. But the majority of the time I will look after my health as much as I can. Oh yeah, that reminds me, if you can get that hatch on the back of a Tiger II, there's one on a lot of SU tanks, you can do full penetrating HE damage. If not, reliably put the heat on, and you will reliably penetrate the rear of the turrets. Now that game we only got one kill, but we did pretty much light up the entire enemy team, which was 4,600 damage, 18,000 credits, and 1,419 base XP. So it was still a very good game, but still not enough for a mastery in this thing. Now this one gives a perfect example of what I mean by this thing ammo racks, and it ammo racks well. But one thing I've seen a lot of players doing, or a lot of the player base doing, is camping in these things. Why? Don't camp in it. It's still a light tank at the end of the day. It still has fantastic mobility. Why would you camp in the back of a map with it? It's not an ISU. It's not a KV2 even though you wouldn't camp in a KV2. But it is still a light tank at the end of the day. So I try my best to use it for spotting. Because the team still needs you as their light tank to be spotting for them. And obviously remember, you have a fantastic camo value with your light tanks, which means you can pretty much come all the way up here and I'm completely unspotted. Now you'll notice I haven't taken my shot. I'm waiting patiently for that shot. But then I see him. But then the LTTB comes back out and he's a much easier target to penetrate on the side. Which means we have a nice full damage HE. But even better, we've ammo racked him at the same time. So there's 1,000 damage in our first shot. Now we have 1,300 damage. It was a bad shot, but it's still worth taking shots like that. The other thing I like to do is try and aim well prior to where I think the tank is going. That way I should be either fully aimed in or most of the way in by the time they come into your view range, and then you just shoot. Otherwise, if you're trying to chase something down, it's quite hard. Now, again, a favourite target for us all. We know exactly what's going to happen here. Full penetrating HE shot. So we've got over 2,000 damage in 3 shots. That's not bad for a tier 8 tank. And obviously I've spotted a comet on my right hand side. So I've got tanks on both sides of me at the moment. So you can see I'm paying attention to what he's doing. Because the key thing in this tank is don't get shot. I try to preserve the hit points on this more than any other tank. Because if I do need to brawl, they're going to get a lot more shots out before we do. And they're going to be putting their HE on. And they're going to be penetrating you with most shots with HE. Or if it's something a little bit bigger than you, there's a high probability they're going to ram you for more damage as well. So I really do try to preserve my hit points. It doesn't mean I camp in this thing. And you'll see that in the replays. I like to YOLO charge this thing. It's fun trying to distract people, running in between the reds. Just appearing randomly using that mobility. It really annoys people. And it's even more fun when you don't stop to aim, you unload a shell at point blank range, and then you run away. And that was our second ammo rack of this game. Which is not very often you get 2 ammo racks in one game. It's the T49. I mean, obviously the Steramule we don't even need to aim at, you just launch a HE in his face and you can pretty much guarantee that is going to kill him. And it looks like we're going to win on cap points before we do any more damage anyway. But it's okay. We have our third ammo rack of the game. But this is why I don't like Supremacy in this tank. Because you just can't get enough damage. There were another 2 reds there, and I could have done more damage. This one, though, means we did light up the enemy team. We did 3,678 damage, and we did, well, we got 5,000 credits still, so that's not too bad. At the start of that match, though, we lit up 5 of the enemy. Now, this next match, I really did enjoy. It was so much fun, and I think it's just... this is what the T49 is all about. On this side is myself, and there's a T54, and we have a Centurion 1. The enemy have a T54, a T44, and a Super Persian. Now, a Super Persian is devastating to the front of this, because I can't penetrate it with heat, spaced armor, and I can't penetrate it with HE. So really, I need to be shooting for the soft squishy bit right between the tracks at the back. Otherwise, I am just doing splash damage. And that, by the way, is one of the big weaknesses of this tank. You can't shoot through objects. So you could be sitting, or you could have a red sitting right in front of you, behind a wall, and you can't shoot him because your shot, whether it's the HE or the heat, is just going to get absorbed. Now, there is an ammo rack coming up, but sadly, it is not my ammo rack. I track him, and someone else ammo racks him. I'm not complaining, though. That is 1,000 assistance damage in the bag. And like I mentioned in the T57 video, which I put up, I think yesterday or earlier this week, when you're doing that much tracking, to targets, you will get a huge amount of tracking assistance damage. Now here you'll see I'm trying to wait for my shot to shoot at the butt of this T54, because you can do full HE penetrating damage. You'll actually struggle to penetrate, even with the heat, the front of a T54. Which is another reason why this thing sucks so badly at brawling. Because if they come face hug you, there's not a great deal you can do unless you can get around the side of it in terms of taking it out. Now you'll notice I'm trying to aim just above the tracks on that T32, and I wasn't fully aimed, yet I don't know how it hit. But we did hit, we did set him on fire, and we did cause a nasty amount of damage to him. And he's very, very low health now, so I can just splash him anywhere to finish him off. Which means we have 2 kills in the bag. We haven't lost any health yet, but you'll notice our T54 is pretty much being targeted, because obviously I drop off the radar pretty quickly. And again, you'll see I'm looking for the soft squishy bits of that T20. I don't know why. I never call it a T26E4. It's not. Why can't they just change the name in the game to Super P? Anyway, doesn't matter. I'm trying to help him out by trying to get a decent shot on to finish him off. However, if I zoom out, there is an ST1 trying to kill me. So I'm going to shoot him low down, track damage, and you'll notice I'm going to reverse up the hill slightly by here. And I'm not going to reverse all the way because he'll catch me. So I'm reversing up the hill, give myself some momentum as I accelerate off. He is still chasing me, which is why I am running. However, I never expected a T95 to appear there. T95 butt shot. A tank that heavily armoured, there is no point trying to splash the side of it when I could very easily get around the butt of him there. Come around the corner, there's a Tiger and a Super P looking at me. So I'm going to go round the ridge. You notice the Super Persian is going to chase me around the ridge. The Tiger 2 has already turned his gun to the right, expecting me to go that way. But I've gone straight through the middle. One more HE shot into the T95 and we finish him off. But yeah, did you notice that Tiger 2 was pre-aiming towards the right because he knew the mobility was an issue. He wouldn't have been able to turn it in time. So fair play to him. He knew what he was doing. He turned it in advance, expecting me to go that direction. Instead, we went straight through the middle. They just didn't expect that. Now, you'll notice I've got my HE because I'm at the back. I'm trying to aim for that back hatch, but I can't get it. Put the heat on. Ammo rack anyway. So that's 4 kills. One of them was an ammo rack. Tiger 2 clearly isn't happy at the top of the chat there. Now the Super P, I can't penetrate him. However, a nice bit of splash damage in his face is not going to be an issue with the amount of health he is on. Now we didn't exactly stay still for that, and by no means did we camp. We spotted most of the reds. We were in there in the thick of it, which means we did 5,986 damage. Made 22,000 credits, which is not bad. I don't expect to make credits in this tank because I fire a lot of the HE, but you need to. So that's 2,000 base XP though. That I am really pleased with, especially when you look at the total damage done by the team. We did a lot more than the team, but we also did 2,700 assistance damage, and we also dealt damage to every single one of the enemy team. But pretty much, obviously, we went right, the vast majority of the enemy team went right, and obviously our team was firing across the middle of the map then, which obviously helps us with assistance damage. If you haven't got one of these yet, go and get one right now. You will not regret it. It is amazing fun. If you have got one, I'm sure you share the same opinion with me. It's just flat out hysterical. Well, that's if you're driving it. If you're not in one, then it is absolute hell to see one on the red team. Especially if it's driven by a competent player. If somebody's just trying to splash you to death and you're in a really heavily armoured tank, you're not too concerned about it. If they're circling you and putting heat into your butt every time, yeah, it hurts. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's just so much fun to play, so I hope it's as much fun to watch the video. But I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.